Now, you had a white supremacist terrorist that made terroristic threats to CNN. He called several times to make this threat. He also made threats to an Islamic center. But I want you to hear the details of this particular story. Pay close attention to how they handled him.
This is a copy of the criminal complaint filed in federal court. It describes a pattern of disturbing behavior. It started with a call to the Islamic Center of Ann Arbor in September. A 19-year-old Novi man left an offensive, obscenity-filled message that left worshipers concerned for their safety. Because it wasn't a specific threat, the man did not face charges, but police made record of it in case anything else happened.
Because he did call the Islamic Center and make disparaging calls about the religion itself, it can segue it into elements of a future charge based on what's said the second time, because it begins to show a pattern.
And it appears that is what happened. The FBI says Brian Griesemer called CNN on January 9th and told the operator, quote, "Fake news. I'm coming to gun you all down." After speaking obscenities and a racial slur, he hung up. That same day, he allegedly called back twice, saying he was on the way to CNN with guns to kill people. He now is charged with interstate communications with threat to injure and out on $10,000 unsecured bond.
It's a paltry bond.
The executive director of the Michigan chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, Dawood Walid, says he believes the president should acknowledge how his words could potentially inspire such actions.
Who's using Trump-type language, calling CNN fake news. Then he calls into a mosque and he makes threats and hateful speech. So 1 + 1 = 2.
While cameras are not allowed in federal court, an audio recording of the arraignment was released. The judge ordered the defendant to get mental health help if he wants to remain free.
You're to submit to drug testing and treatment as directed by pretrial services, as well as mental health assessment and treatment. And you've heard the other conditions. Can you tell me that you will abide by these conditions?
Yes.
Now, did you hear how the judge, even though he had a pattern of threatening different people, he was allowed to claim mental illness and get a bail? Now, if it would have been an Islamic guy, if it had been a black guy or Hispanic guy who have done this, Trump would have come out. He'd have been screaming and yelling about immigration. He'd been speaking about terrorism and all kind of other nasty names that Trump likes to say to people. Now, unfortunately, a lot of white supremacists don't have mind of their own. They follow everything that Donald Trump has to say, which is not the guy that you need to be following. But let's read the quotes to what he stated, and we're going to put that up on the screen out of the court documents, okay? So if we look at number 8 here, on January 9, 2018, at 3:06 p.m., Cable News Network received a call, and they gave the number, a landline located in Atlanta, Georgia, that's publicly listed contact number for CNN. And you scroll down, he says, "Fake news, I'm coming to gun you all down. F you, effing," and he said the N-word. Then a caller hung up. Now, CNN, last time I checked, isn't black owned. Don't have a black CEO. Last time I checked. But yet, he was on some white supremacist terrorism. You see, this is why the criminality with the Neanderthals is through the roof. It's because the criminal justice system do not handle Neanderthals the same way they handle black people. This is why black people be careful on certain things they're doing, certain things they're saying, is because they can't go and threaten news organizations over the phone about killing them and then be able to use the mental health defense, or the judge saying, "Oh, well, just don't do it again. We'll come back to court." That's how they handle them. That's why it's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous, the society that we live in, because they feel emboldened with Trump. They know the criminal justice system is not going to do them anything because, as I stated before, they always say, "Oh, he looks like my nephew. Oh, she looks like my niece. Oh, he reminds me of my son." That's the way they act. They have an affinity for their own. And that is a biased way to look at things. But when it comes to black folks, Hispanics, and all these other groups, you ready to throw the book at them, especially blacks. Blacks get the more time out of anybody else for the exact same crimes. But watch. It's going to be a slap on the wrist for this guy. He's not going to, if he get any time, it's going to be very minimal. And he'll be right back on the street, Neanderthaling it up, being probably in some sort of alt-right or Klan group. I mean, look how young he is. Do you understand? The next generation, the so-called millennial generation, is ruined already. They're ruined. You can't say that, well, you know, that's the older people with the racism. No, they are ruined. They grew up in a time period where everybody's mixing and mingling, and they're still on white supremacist terrorism. This is why I tell us we have to be extremely careful, because as time go along, I'm warning you, these white supremacist terrorists are going to be really doing things. The more and more they hear the words of low birth rate and them dying out. They're trying everything they can to deport Hispanics and deport Haitians and deport Somalians and all these people who have some melanin to their skin. They're trying to deport all of them, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Trump can try all what he wants. It's not going to work. But they want to hold on to their superiority in this country, and it's slipping from their hands every single day. And Donald Trump is the response to them losing their position. They see it far out. But let's just see what happens with him, which is not going to be much of nothing. Like I said, he'll be back on the streets, Neanderthaling it up. But leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this video, because this situation is more proof that how they can do what they want to do and nothing happens to them.